Hello, welcome to Axiom Flux on the panel with PJ and Blackhole Bridger. Today's date's the 19th of March 2015 and Blackhole's going to start us off. Over
Good
to you,
evening.
Blackhole.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My first article is from the Mail Online, and it's Prime Minister urged to help abuse witnesses. The Prime Minister is facing calls to guarantee that the police and intelligence officers who give evidence of the alleged VIP paedophile ring in Westminster will not be prosecuted. It emerged yesterday being Wednesday because this is yesterday's article, that Scotland Yard is being investigated over claims that it covered up child sex abuse because of the involvement of influential MPs and police officers. The Independent Police Complaints Commission, the IPCC, is looking into 14 referrals with details of alleged corruption in the Metropolitan Police relating to child sex offences from the 1970s to the 2000s. Scotland Yard is being investigated over claims that it covered up child sex abuse because of the involvement of influential MPs and police officers. New claims were also made on the BBC's Newsnight that officers who arrested Liberal MP Sir Cyril Smith on suspicion of hosting sex parties with teenage boys were warned to keep quiet about the investigation or face prosecution under the Official Secrets Act. Gagging by use of the Official Secrets Act. John Watson, a Labour MP who first spoke out in Parliament about a Westminster paedophile ring in October of 2012, today called on David Cameron to shield whistleblowers from that law. Mr. Watson said, "It is now clear that the Prime Minister must guarantee that former police and intelligence officers who wish to help the IPCC with their inquiries will have the threat of the Official Secrets Act lifted. With this new inquiry, it is also clear that the duty of all former police officers, intelligence officers and civil servants who have knowledge of a cover-up to come forward." The call was backed by Simon Dunchak, the Labour MP for Rochdale, Smith's old seat. Mr. Dunchak also called in November 2012 for an inquiry into a potential cover-up of his predecessor's alleged abuse. He told the Press Association there has to be a more formal response from government which says that former police officers who cooperate, give evidence and share their knowledge of what went on with regard to this alleged cover-up should not be disciplined in any way with regard to the Official Secrets Act or in any other way. They should be given the freedom to speak out. That's what the public will expect, and that's what government have to ensure. Among the allegations being investigated by the IPCC, that's the Independent Police Complaints Commission, is a claim that the Houses of Parliament document found at a child sex offender's address linked a number of highly prominent individuals, including MPs and senior police officers, to a paedophile ring, but no further action was taken. Another allegation is that an abuse victim's account was alerted to omit a senior politician's name. Sorry, not alerted, altered. while it is also alleged that no further action was taken into claims of child sex abuse involving former senior Met police officer and further members of the establishment, including judges. An investigation into young men being targeted in Dolphin Square, an apartment complex near the Houses of Parliament popular with MPs, was also allegedly stopped because officers were too near prominent people. Last July, Theresa May, the Home Secretary, announced a major public panel inquiry into whether paedophiles were sheltered in government. The NHS, police, the courts and the BBC, it has since been rocked by the resignations of people selected to be its chair, Baroness Butler-Sloss and Fiona Wolf, following accusations that they were too close to the establishment to be independent. The inquiry is currently being chaired by Justice Dame Lowell Goddard. We'll come on to her in another article. A New Zealand High Court judge. Newsnight said last night that it had received the information about the Cyril Smith investigation from a former officer familiar with the original investigation and its closure. It claimed that police officers brought Smith in for questioning in connection to an inquiry in the early 1980s into properties in South London suspected of hosting paedophile parties. He was released within hours of being taken to a police station, and officers were ordered to hand over notebooks and video footage, according to the claims. It is believed that the 10th of the 14 referrals made to the IPCC, the Independent Police Complaints Commission, over allegations of child sex abuse against a senior politician and a subsequent cover-up of his crimes relates to Smith. Clive Driscoll, a retired Scotland Yard detective who investigated child abuse allegations in Lambeth, has now examined the Cyril Smith cover-up claims, branded any threat to use the Official Secrets Act against officers who want to come forward to tell the truth as disgraceful. He said, if it's true that there are officers that want to come forward but they feel inhibited by the Official Secrets Act, and if the general information that appears to come from them is true, it's disgraceful. It's just wrong, and it would undermine our democracy. Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg said, these allegations could not be more serious. There are allegations of very, very serious dereliction of duty and of wrongdoing by people in the police at the time who were investigating. It is alleged. Some of the most grotesque crimes imaginable. I would just very much hope the police now can investigate this very thoroughly without fear or favour and get to the bottom of the truth. I would urge anyone who has any information that can cast any light on what happened way back then to come forward and cooperate with the police. A Home Office spokesman said the Home Secretary has given clear assurances that the Official Secrets Act is not a bar to giving evidence to either the independent panel inquiry into child sexual abuse or ongoing police investigations. Oh my word. Yeah, Cyril Smith. He was said to abuse teenage boys during his time as an MP. Well, I really hope they mean this, that the Official Secrets Act can't be used. And not only that, it's not just the Official Secrets Act that shouldn't be used, also the sealed documents on the children's care homes that have been sealed up, some up to 80 years. Have you any comments on that, PJ? It looks as PJ
I might.
preparing.
I'll wait till you finish. I might have, because you might be able to tie some of mine in with ours. So I'll wait till the end.
Okay, I'll go on to my next article. My next article is Justice Denied. Right, the CSA inquiry, triple whammy for May, as she appoints another cover-up merchant, Lowell Goddard QC. Theresa May scores a triple whammy by appointing establishment lackey without history of cover-ups. Judge Lowell Goddard QC to head the child sexual abuse inquiry. Michael Mansfield QC, wanted by the survivors, was not even considered. Goddard's first husband is a member of the House of Lords, Sir John Scott, 5th Baronet of Buccleuch, and he worked for the BBC. The child sex abuse inquiry must investigate both the House of Lords and the BBC. She was awarded an honour by the Queen and his dame. She is a dyed-in-the-wool establishment cover-up. Yeah, so they're saying that she's not connected with the establishment because she don't understand what the establishment is. Oh, that's a bit of thin smoke, isn't it? How does she expect to get away with that? High Court Justice Lowell Goddard, profession data, 2014 Judge Survey score, 1 out of 10. 6.5, ranking out of 60, 62nd. And this is a safe pair of hands that's been brought in because she's independent. She's a QC, a former Deputy Solicitor General, a High Court Wellington since 1995. Specialisations and professional interest. She was a judge entrusted with making recommendations on behalf of the Independent Police Complaints Authority investigations to the Commissioner of Police until she returned to the High Court bench in 2012. Justice Goddard is past chair and the Independent Police Conduct Authority and now sits in the Wellington High Court officially. She has overseen significant change as the authority publicly portrayed itself as a transparent, investigative and reviewing agency of the serious complaints against the police. The reality is different. Justice Goddard held up and covered up a number of serious complaints. Perhaps this is not surprising given her history. When Deputy Solicitor General Lowell Goddard refused to release evidence that former Judge Michael Lance was guilty of throwing a police prosecution of his son Simon's business partner, claiming it was not in the public interest to do so. The police inspector at the time sought release of the file. Judge Lance later became Goddard's deputy judge at the IPCA, demonstrating a level of audacity even rare by New Zealand standards, or should I say audacity. Lance retired in disgrace shortly afterward when it was reported he was keying cars parked in front of his Takapuna apartment. Lance was prosecuted in a judge-alone trial and let off. A judge-alone trial? And let off. Not surprising, is it? The IPCA became even a more opaque agency under Justice Goddard, with legal exemptions of disclosure to the Official Information Act and Privacy Act. Much of its work is cloaked by tight secrecy. Justice Goddard is believed to be the first Maori woman to have served as a High Court judge. She is also sat as a member of the Criminal Division of the Court of Appeal. As a lawyer, Justice Goddard defended and prosecuted in a number of homicide and other serious criminal trials, and acted as counsel assisting tribunals and commissions of inquiry, including the Cartwright inquiry into allegations concerning the treatment of cervical cancer at National Women's Hospital in New Zealand in 2009. Justice Goddard gave a speech to the Australian Public Sector Anti-Corruption Conference. An abstract of her speech is provided immediately below this profile. Lawyers who appear before her generally have little regard for her as a judge willing to conform to law or rule, consistent with relevant facts. They are far more impressed with her impeccable dress and makeup. Graduated at LLB from the University of Auckland in 1974 and was admitted to the bar in 1975. She commenced practice primarily as a defence barrister and later as Crown Prosecutor in 1988. She was appointed Queen's Counsel and in 1989 became Deputy Solicitor General for New Zealand. In that role, she discharged the functions of Director of Public Prosecutions at a national level. Yeah, so I can see why Theresa May chose this lady. In 2009, Justice Goddard's former deputy, Judge Michael Lance, was criminally charged with willful vandalism in relation to keying of a man's car in front of his residence. 15 years earlier, as a Deputy Solicitor General, Lowell Goddard covered up misconduct by Judge Lance in the criminal trial he presided over, where his son's law associate was charged with extortion. And Lance acquitted the man and ordered permanent name suppression. Yeah, a very safe pair of hands, I would say. Abstract Justice Lowell Goddard's speech to the Australian Public Sector Anti-Corruption Conference in July of 2009. In 1998, the New Zealand government established a permanent independent body known as the Police Complaints Authority. This was largely in response to public criticism over police handling of complaints about alleged brutality to citizens during demonstrations opposing the 1981 Springbok tour of New Zealand. The New Zealand Police Complaints Authority was created by statute and from the outset was headed by a judge, Its role was to better provide for the investigation of the resolution of complaints against police and to make recommendations where necessary, including that consideration be given by the Commissioner of Police to the institution of disciplinary or criminal proceedings against any member of police. Since its inception, the authority has undergone a metamorphosis from a purely reviewing oversight role to a more robust and independent investigative model. To achieve this objective, it has undertaken internal restructuring and its work approach has been reformed. Its focus is now increasingly on independently investigating and the most serious incidents and allegations about police, and it deploys its own investigation teams for that purpose. In addition, it has received enhanced legislative powers and has been renamed the Independent Police Conduct Authority. Further investigative powers and prosecutorial powers are in draft legislation. This also focus away from merely reviewing police investigations into complaints towards actively investigating, was in response to the public dissatisfaction over the apparent ineffectiveness and lack of transparency of the authority's work, brought to a head by its inability to inquire into serious historical police misconduct, and came to a public attention around the year 2000. The authority currently has a number of high-profile investigations underway and is increasingly reporting publicly on its findings and recommendations. It has received support from the New Zealand government in the form of increased resourcing and is increasing public confidence in the robustness and openness of its work. An important and exciting new dimension to the authority's work is the contribution it has recently made to help build international capacity in independent oversight of policing. This contribution recognises the importance of assisting in and understanding of integrity in policing to ensure that human rights are protected, particularly in developing nations and in situations where civilian police forces can become an instrument of political oppression. An exchange took place in Parliament which mentioned the above details about Goddard. It is produced below. Mrs May's statement to the House of Commons made no mention of any concern regarding Justice Goddard's conduct. That's supposed to be showing integrity. Following Mrs May's seemingly impressive statement to the House of Commons, the following exchange took place between Sir Paul Beresford, a Conservative MP, and Mrs May. Sir Paul Beresford, Mole Valley Conservative: Mr Speaker will not be surprised to hear that my position as an ethnic minority immigrant from New Zealand as to my support for the statement. One thing that I have noticed in New Zealand is that it suffers from tall poppy syndrome that came through at the last edition in New Zealand, when very unpleasant anonymous accusations were made. I expect that someone with the standing and career of Justice Goddard will have been the subject of such false and probably anonymous accusations. If my right honourable friend is aware of any such accusations, can she kill them dead now? Mrs May: I thank my honourable friend for his support and for the appointment of a New Zealand judge. It became apparent during the due diligence process that there is a blog with an accusation against Justice Lowell Goddard relating to a potential cover-up. I have spoken to her and to New Zealand's Attorney General about it, and I have been assured that there is absolutely no truth to the allegation. That information was shared with a number of survivors, and they were comfortable with the explanation that was given. I am clear not only that Justice Goddard has the necessary experience in this area, but crucially that her track record shows, for example, in the work that she did to look at police conduct in these matters, that she is willing to go where the evidence takes her without fear or favour. Initially, apart there are three areas of concern. I think that's supposed to be 3 areas of concern, but maybe they're growing trees there. Maybe they're planting evidence. No, maybe not. I shouldn't say that. Trees. Justice number 1. What Justice Goddard covered up seemingly criminal misconduct by a fellow judge, Michael Lance. It is that allegation which I take the Home Secretary to refer to in her answer to Sir Paul Beresford's question. Number 2, a judicial decision by Justice Goddard which confirmed that the identity of a convicted paedophile should remain secret. Why? Goddard's first husband is a member of the House of Lords, Sir John Scott, 5th Baronet of Buccleuch, and he worked for the BBC, the child sex abuse inquiry must investigate both the House of Lords and the BBC. She was awarded an honour by the Queen and is a dame. She is in a dyed-in-the-wool establishment cover-up merchant. I believe we've already covered this part on the last one. So there we have it. There we have it. Now, this lady has been brought in from New Zealand because there is, in Mrs. May's opinion, nobody that can sit on this to head this child abuse inquiry. Yet the survivors have been crying out for justice to be done, and they keep bringing in these cover-up merchants, these same pair of vans that have got links and ties to the establishment. And as this lady says, she don't know what establishment is. Well, as she said, there's no such thing as establishment in New Zealand. Well, I care to beg to differ with this lady. She is a big part of the establishment. So, in my opinion, she's told a big mistruth there. Anyway, we'll go on to our next article. It's a Satanic cult dismissed by a judge. Now, this is covering the case of 2 young children, a boy and a girl, brother and sister, that's made accusations against Christchurch Primary School and the church and the teachers and the heads and other parents that are in on this satanic abuse, alleged satanic abuse. Right. Claims that a satanic cult where children were abused by paedophiles has been operating in North London have been dismissed by a High Court judge. Mrs. Justice Palfrey said detail of the claims has been circulating on the internet. She said she had asked to investigate by social services bosses and had conducted a fact-finding exercise at a family court hearing in London. Family court, is that open to the public? I bet not, because most of the family courts now are secret courts. The judge said in a ruling today that the claims were baseless, and she described people who sought to perpetrate them as evil or foolish. Now, so these children describing their the alleged accused, describing of their genital parts with different distinct markings, tattoos, etc. How were these children to know what these different people they were pointing out have got these different markings, warts or what have you, birthmarks in these areas which are not exposed to the public? How can they be telling us that? Now, this lady, this judge, has said that it is dismissed. How can she dismiss it on a fact-finding mission when it's not an investigation? I'm not certain whether the accused have been questioned, and if they're not, I want to know why not. And secondly, to clear all this up, whether it's a hoax, whether it's children telling silly lies, which they can't possibly know whether they've got these certain birthmarks, etc., around their genitalia. So the only way to clear this up is for a medical examination of the accused. And this will clear it up. Now, why is there not a medical examination of the accused taking place? That is investigation. We don't want a fact-finding mission and then you to dismiss it on a fact-finding mission. We want to know whether there is evidence to support the children's claims that these people have got these markings, that these people have done these horrible acts to them, alleged acts to them. And the only way to clear this up is to have them medically examined. It has been proven medically that the children have suffered sodomy and rape. Medically proven. So how have they been sodomized and raped? The people are demanding that these people are medically examined and the proof be brought forth or knocked down. It's not good enough for a judge to say Satanic court dismissed just on a fact-finding mission. Paper shuffling is not good enough in these cases. There's young children suffering, and there are many adults that suffered as children that are still suffering today, because all this is still being swept under that very lumpy, bumpy carpet. And not only is it being swept under a very lumpy, bumpy carpet, there are people that are being victimised just because they've spoken out because they were sexually abused in care homes, institutional rape, institutional sodomy, institutional mental suffering. And it's not good enough. The people demand that these people, the accused, are medically examined. Because that is the only way to get to the bottom of this, because a fact-finding mission is not good enough. How can she dismiss this when there's been no proper investigation? These children are medically proven to have been raped. Not once, not twice, but regularly, week in, week out, allegedly raped. And he's not allegedly raped, he's now proven raped because there is medical evidence that they've been raped. So who's raped them? And these children are telling us who's raped them. They're pointing the finger. They're not just pointing the finger, they're telling of distinguishing marks on the genitals of these people. Marks, tattoos, birthmarks, warts on the genitalias, named each person. We demand that these accused be medically examined. What's you got your thoughts on this, PJ?
Probably no different from the other times, other days we've been reporting on it. You know, the stories that keep coming out are just getting hard to take in, really, aren't they?
Well, it's just absolutely sickening that it keeps on getting brushed under that lumpy, bumpy carpet. If the children have been medically examined and it's been proven they've been sodomized and raped, well, somebody must have done that. And if the children are telling who's done it and pointing the fingers and telling evidence to back up their claim, that should be investigated. And investigated means a medical examination. Surely not. That a 12-year-old can think of that. So why is there no medical examination?
Well, we can only speculate at the time being. But it seems pretty obvious, in my opinion.
Yeah. But that's all from me for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'll pass over to PJ if he's ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to start mine off now. I'm just going to go into this one to start with, just briefly. It's the Tunisian museum attack. At least 22 killed on the 18th of March, including 20 foreign tourists were killed when gunmen attacked a museum in Tunis. Tunisia's Interior Ministry said on Wednesday. So there was 5 attackers called, well, they're being called now, it's been classed 5 terrorists, but I don't think at the time they was willing to say that. The tourists are from Spain, Italy, Germany, France, Japan and Poland. And also in this article, 1 British woman killed in the museum shooting. Got a video and some images here to show. Okay, so as you can see there, people trying to evacuate for safety. Some more images here. The damage from the shooting, the bullets on on the right side. Maria. Donald Tusk, he said 1 minute of silence. The European Council pays tribute to the victims of the terrorist attack in Tunisia. Tunisians are understandably worried that the attack at the Bardo Museum in Tunis could devastate the tourism sector. Tunisians want to convince tourists around the world that the country is still safe to visit. Let's finish off there with the last remaining images. And of course, as expected, a few words from David King Cameron.
Well, these terrorist attacks yesterday in Tunisia were an appalling and brutal outrage. I can confirm that one of those killed was a British citizen, and our heart goes out to her family, and we'll do everything we can to help with the consular assistance and to help the family at this very difficult time. We need to be absolutely clear about what we face. This is the latest example of extremist terror. And we have to fight it with everything we have, whether that is taking the poison out of young minds here in Britain, whether it's working with intelligence and policing and security services in other countries around the world, or whether it is dealing decisively with those areas of the world from which these problems come. In the end, our values, freedom of speech, democracy, the rule of law, they will win through, and we must show the persistence and the consistency to make sure they do. But I'm confident they will.
But there must be concern that Tunisia was the one state that was the shining light of the Arab Spring, and yet we hear recently that it is sending more fighters to fight for ISIS. And now we have this event.
Well, of course, the extremists, the terrorists, they hate democracy. They hate the idea that people should be able to choose their own government. But we mustn't let democracy, freedom, the rule of law, the things that we hold dear, and people in Tunisia hold dear, we must not let them be defeated or undermined by these extremists and terrorists. That is the battle we are engaged in. But I'm confident if we stick to our values, we will win through.
There you go. Last images there, security. There wasn't that much security at the time. French survivor, the Maryland. And I think the British person who was killed has been named. And named Saliada. British one, Saliada. So next one. Human rights breaches. Families of Iraqis shot by UK troops could sue the Ministry of Defence. Grieving families of Iraqis gunned down by British soldiers in Iraq may sue Britain's Ministry of Defence for violating international law, following a landmark High Court ruling. In the court's judgment, cases where Iraqis were killed or wounded by British soldiers fall within the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights. The milestone ruling could pave the way for over 1,200 claims brought by Iraqi families. British law firm Public Interest Lawyers, which is the PIL, which specialises in judicial review cases relating to human rights violations, would represent the claimants. The MOD told RT on Thursday it is concerned the High Court has adopted such an expansive view of ECHR jurisdiction, and it warned the landmark ruling would open up a tidal wave of opportunistic lawsuits against the government that would have to be investigated and litigated at heavy cost to the taxpayer. It is insisted it plans to challenge the High Court's judgment in Britain's Court of Appeal. Under the European Convention of Human Rights, the UK has a duty to investigate claims of wrongdoing committed on its behalf. The extent to which the Convention can be applied to the actions of British soldiers in Iraq has previously sparked legal conjecture. Britain's first Secretary of State, William Hague, previously said Iraqis who were detained by British forces but not killed had rights under the convention. However, Iraqi claimants seeking justice for their deceased loved ones argue Article 1 of the convention should also apply to those shot by UK armed forces during Britain's 8-year occupation of Iraq. It's quite a lengthy article this, so if you want to read it you can find it on RT. That was the main part to it. Which goes into this one, the 9/11 truth. Judges shocked by first time seeing video of the World Trade Center 7 building collapse in Denmark court. This is what was used to go into Iraq, was the 9/11. 3 judges in Denmark watched in astonishment last week as they saw the collapse for the first time of the World Trade Center Building 7, the third collapsed building in the September 11th attacks. We got the opportunity.
That's the Solomon building, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We got the opportunity for once to present a video of World Trade Center 7 collapsing in court. At that time I recognised a state of astonishment among the 3 judges. I understand as usual that none of them had heard or seen the collapse of Building 7 before. Well, they should tune into BBC, where they get an early edition, an exclusive announcement. The legal consideration at issue is whether the Weekend Division journalist's statement was libelous, comparing Niels Harrit with creationists and Holocaust deniers, but the presentation of evidence against collapse from fire is a key point. The video of the collapse was looped and shown 3 times during the case. I'm going to look at this now.
Yeah, the building 7, the Solomon building, was the one that our beloved BBC reported on, where the reporter Jane Stanley was stood there and was giving us the building 7 had collapsed, and there it was still standing behind her. So it's obvious it was scripted because she was reading from a script. If she was reading that it collapsed and it was still standing, and you could actually see the building over her left shoulder in the shot while she was doing the reporting.
It was around 20 minutes before it actually did collapse as well. Oh, roughly around.
There wasn't sufficient fire for it to be fire damage for it to collapse either.
Oh. Well, they're saying now with the Twin Towers that it's the other theory, alternative view on it, is not even the correct one either. And I think they're talking along some terms like a spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, more like a directed energy weapon, which is actually turned it into dustification.
Yeah.
Because there's so many millions of tons of building, if you were to blow it up and drop a building, there should be that same amount of rubble and everything around there to the same weight as there would have been, but there wasn't. So it was literally turned into dust. So it's an exotic weapon that was used. Obviously, that can be the only explanation. But where did it go?
Interesting. Well, don't think about it.
If you want to read a book on that, get Dr. Judy Wood's book called "Where Did the Towers Go?" And she puts all the formulas and everything in there. She doesn't get assumptions. She just gets all the evidence and places it before you so you can make up your own mind.
Well, just before you encourage that black hole, if you're in France, you might want to reconsider, because they've made a move to make conspiracy theories illegal by a government decree in this breaking article here from 21st Century Wire. Political elites and super bureaucrats are worried it's becoming harder to control consensus reality. A history stitched together by lies and cover-ups, political assassinations, sleight-of-hand false flag deceptions, secret societies, dual loyalties, and stolen fortunes. This has been the privilege of ruling elites for centuries. Putting aside history's big-ticket items, though, the real reason for this authoritarian trend is much more fundamental. By knocking out their intellectual competition, political elites and their media moguls hope to minimise and thus eliminate any alternative analysis and opinion by applying the completely open-ended and arbitrary label of extremist to speech. They want to wind back the clock, where a pre-internet monolithic corporate media cartel held a monopoly on ideas. Although France has taken the lead in this intergovernmental effort, the preliminary assault began this past fall with British Prime Minister David Cameron publicly announcing on 2 separate occasions that all of these so-called conspiracy theories, anything which challenges the official orthodoxy, should be deemed as extremist and equivalent to terrorist, and should be purged from society on the grounds of national security. The first came with Cameron's warped speech at the UN. Afterwards, a similar charge was made by the UK leader against anyone who dares press the issue of institutional paedophilia and child abuse. Watch this UN speech by Cameron. I've been watching it. It goes on for 15 minutes, so I'll play it all. But in this, he states he claims that conspiracy theorists are the root cause and indeed an equal threat to national security as ISIS terrorists currently running amok in Syria and Iraq. Starts at 4 minutes and 26. We'll play this now.
As evidence emerges about the backgrounds of those convicted of terrorist offences, it is clear that many of them were initially influenced by preachers who claim not to encourage violence, but whose worldview can be used as a justification for it. We know this worldview, the peddling of lies, that 9/11 was somehow a Jewish plot, or that the 7/7 London attacks were staged. The idea that Muslims are persecuted all over the world as a deliberate act of Western policy. The concept of an inevitable clash of civilizations. We must be clear, to defeat the ideology of extremism, we need to deal with all forms of extremism, not just violent extremism. For governments, there are some obvious ways we can do this.
He also said poison the mind of the youth. It needs to be removed.
The trouble is, PJ, they don't want the truth because they can't handle the truth because they know the truth. And if the truth comes out, it will show who the ones that are telling the mistruths.
Yeah. Well, finishing off here quickly is few are aware of how in the wake of the Charlie Hebdo shootings, French Prime Minister Francis Hollande delivered an official declaration. However, Hollande takes it beyond the usual hyperbole, focuses on giving the state an administrative and legal foothold for policing both speech and thought crimes in France. If this can be accomplished in France, then a European rollout would soon follow. Ironically, in order to achieve this fascist leap forward, Hollande has equated conspiracy theories to Nazism and is calling for government regulations to prevent any sharing or publishing of any views deemed as dangerous thought by the state. Specifically, Hollande is citing anti-Semitism and also anything which could inspire acts of terrorism as the chief vehicles for what the state will be designated as dangerous thoughts, with the thumb of Hebdo still pressing down. This may just sound like politics writ large by the French leader, but in reality it's full-blown fascism. So you're being redirected to this official website since your computer was about to connect with a page that provoked terrorist acts or condones terrorism publicly. And there's Holland to finish us off. Do go into these articles and look into them if it's something you want to read more about. But if you're struggling between King Cameron and Nigel Farage, or you're more interested in what Putin's got to say, then you might be on the watch list. Or just if you even have a heart and care about what's going on in this country. Next one is a bit more light article.
I think it was the following day, PJ, or within a couple of days, Nick Colstrom, the guy who wrote the book Terror on the Tubes, that's about the 7/7 bombings, he went to the police station and handed himself in as an extremist terrorist.
Yeah, he did.
And they didn't know what to do about it because he was admitting that he's writing all these which are considered conspiracy.
It's how far do you want to, perceive things really? It's all about the perception, deception, where is tax, people say, paying tax, that's funding wars, and
yeah.
So then are you funding a terrorist organisation?
Yeah, it's the way of them shutting down free speech, because as I say, they used a monopoly on what was being the main meme being put out of their propaganda machines, which is the TV. But they haven't got that now. Now we've got the internet, and information can be freely accessed by anybody that's got a computer.
Right, so
now they're on the back foot.
I'll finish off here now, Paul. Eels can control their prey remotely. It used to be revealed that eels are capable of controlling their prey remotely before eating them. A 9-month study at Vanderbilt University showed researchers how the eels go about hunting their prey. They use their electric organs to control the prey from a distance before stunning them with an intense electrical discharge. The rapid event is in fact a chain of events controlled from a distance by the eel's neurons, and not just a simple shock and eat procedure as was once thought. So I've got a video here.
Science.
A new study has revealed that more than stun their prey, eels can use their electric organs to remotely control the fish they hunt. The findings are the outcome of a 9-month study in which researchers used a high-speed camera to slow down time and observe precisely how the eels hunt and catch their prey. Using a pair of low-intensity pulses to make their victims involuntarily twitch and reveal their location, eels unleash a high-powered electric discharge which leaves the prey literally frozen in a state of shock and basically take over its nervous system.
So it really is a remote control, in a sense, of the eel's neurons activating through the electric generating organs, the neurons in the prey. And so they're remotely activating their prey muscles and essentially taking over their peripheral nervous system.
Until recently, it was thought that eels simply shock their prey to death before eating them. But what the researchers witnessed was a complex series of electrifying events that unraveled faster than a blink of an eye, and are the result of the eel's unique anatomy, which has been fine-tuned over millions of years of evolution.
The front may be 1/5 or less of the animal is all the normal internal organs, and the back end is mostly muscles that have been converted into energy-generating batteries that are lined up in series like in a big flashlight.
Much more remains to be understood about eels, like how their bodies are shielded from the intense electricity they produce. And in further research, scientists are trying to better understand eels at a molecular level, to find out how they and other electric fish have managed to build a battery from muscle tissue.
There you go, a little bit different news on Flux there.
Wow.
Closing the Flux with the Eclipse coming up tomorrow. 2015 path, when and where the blackout will happen, and how to watch it in 3 charts. So the chart here is all you need to know about tomorrow's solar eclipse, unless you live on the Faroe Islands or in the Svalbard. You will only see a partial solar eclipse this year. There won't be another one in Europe until 2026. How much of the partial solar eclipse you will see in this chart here. So there you go. Have a look at that. Pick out where you are and see what you can see. I think it's between half. Is it 8:30?
In fact, it's a real special eclipse. This one, because it's a supermoon.
It is, yeah.
An eclipse.
It's going to be interesting. Safe ways to view the eclipse. Pinhole projection.
And it's also a blood moon, so it's a trilogy.
And this is a little piece of pinhole in a piece of card or stiff paper. Hold it up to a window facing the sun. Put the curtains to darken the room, and place a sheet of white paper a few feet away from the card. A small faint image of the sun will appear on the paper. There you go. Let's finish us off. Send us your photos and videos if you've got any. And we'll take a look and put them out tomorrow. Okay, that's all I've got. That's all I've got, Blackhole.
Let's hope we got a cloud-free sky tomorrow.
Hopefully, but we never know. It's UK, after all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we've got time for. So do join us again tomorrow. Till next time. Bye for now.
Good night.